were saying that Daddy sat behind you in school. What year was this?
That
You
was
were in the
19,
what grade in school were you?
9th grade, first year of high school.
Did he tease you?
Quite a little bit. He always was threatening to put my hair in the inkwell. And he got pretty close to there, but I don't know if he ever did get it clear in the inkwell. We had inkwells then, you know, that's what we wrote from, an inkwell and a pen, the point on it that we did from the inkwell to write.
I never was really bad. I was just threatening all the time.
And he kept the seat moving all the time.
Yeah, I was pretty much
I
a
felt a
wiggle.
little bit hard to ride.
So when Daddy quit school, you were able to write better.
I didn't know that.
When did you guys start dating?
Before you start that, I wanted to tell about when you spoke about Thousand Springs. I can remember going down to Thousand Springs in our famous lumber wagon and horses. And at that time, there was a ferry across just above where Osley Bridge is now, the old Osley Bridge. And I'll never forget getting those horses. My dad, they had to take hold of their bits and lead them because when they first stepped on the ferry, it would, of course, wiggle. It wasn't stationary. I mean, it wobbled a lot. And we finally got the horses on and went across. I don't know what we went across for, but...
It was Osley Ferry, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They named that Osley Bridge.
Yeah. And I remember it was it was something that I had never done before. Interesting.
There was another ferry above Shoshone Falls. There was no rim-to-rim bridge. There was a ferry above, on the river above Shoshone Falls that we went over to the sides. I can't remember going very much. But there was a bridge across at Blue Lakes. And you go down that bridge, the same bridge is there, only it's been fixed up.
That same bridge is there.
Yeah, it's there, but they don't ride it across it anymore. It's not safe.
There was also a ferry up below Box Canyon. In that stretch of the river there, below Box Canyon, it crossed there, and they called it Erlon's Ferry. I don't know where it went, but I remember there was one there.
You were saying a little bit ago about some stories that you remember, some of the armory things you used to do when you were a kid. Was that here at Idaho, or was that in Iowa?
Well, can't think now just exactly.
Oh, tell about your Shoshone Basin trip.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
Well, when I forget now how old it was.
about 16, I think.
Must have been about 16.
Because the parents were about 13, and he was just good.
Yeah. There was 5 of us decided we'd go on a camping trip to Shoshone Basin. And the only way we had to go would be in a lumber wagon. And
What's a lumber wagon? Horse and buggy?
no. It's you remember these box wagons with a box on it and a seat up in front?
Oh, okay.
Set up.
Yeah, spring seat in front. And we put, to start with, I was supposed to take a horse, and one of the McCaulleys were to take a horse. And in the night, the night before we left, they had tied their horse up to the wagon at home there. And somehow or other, that horse got tangled up in the rope and choked itself to death. Well, that meant that I'd have to take both my horses. So, and they were used to the school wagon. They were used to traveling right along. So we loaded up, and there was William P., Clarence Brad, Russell McCauley, Billy McCauley, and me. And we started out. We all had rivals. Just imagine. I was the oldest one in the bunch, I think.
No, you were not older than Russell. Oh, yes, you were. You
Yeah.
were Russell.
Anyway, I was the driver. because they were my horses. And we just clipped right along. And we got over there. We asked somebody how to get to Shoshone Basin, and they said, you see that gap in the mountains over there, or the hills? It was kind of a gap like so. And he says, the road goes through there. So we followed every road that pointed towards that way. We got there. But before we got there, we...
Take your hand out.
Okay. Before we got there, we saw a badger in the road. So, boy, everybody started shooting. And I wanted to shoot too. I was driving. William Pete was sitting alongside of me, and I just threw the lines over into his lap. And jumped off the wagon and went shooting at that badger. I don't know who killed it, but we finally killed it. And then we proceeded to skin it. We wanted to take the skin home to show people what a wonderful piece of hunting we did. And so we hung the skin on the back end gate. And we went on over to Shoshone Basin. Well, we camped up above those big tall pines that you remember that was there. It was quite a ways in there. But anyway, we camped there, stayed overnight. But before everybody was starting to go to bed, I wasn't ready to go to bed yet. And so I climbed up the tops of the pines. Found a lot of pine cones up there, and I would be dropping them on everybody down below, and especially Billy McCauley. And boy, he got so mad that he would have killed me if he'd have had me.
Think about his gun.
Yeah, I don't know why he didn't, but anyway, I sure drove them guys nuts, throwing them pine cones down on them. They wanted to go to sleep. Anyway, we decided that there wasn't anything in Shoshone Basin for us. We thought we was going to fish over there, but there wasn't any water to speak of. So we decided to go to Salmon Dam. So we loaded up, went over to Salmon Dam.
Before you go any further, was this the trip when you guys were swinging through the trees?
No,
That was another trip.
That was
I was after we married.
Troy and Barbie. That's
Oh, that's later on.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Anyway, we went to Salmon Dam, which is almost as far as back home again. But anyway, we got there, and we caught quite a few fish. And boy, it came in handy because we was running low on grub. We never took anywhere near enough grub. And in those days, when I got hungry, I had a headache. And if I didn't have a headache, I sure did. Anyway, we tied the horses. We unhooked the horses after we got there and tied them up to the wagon and did a lot of fishing. Then we went to bed. Russell and I slept in the wagon. Some hay there, and horses were tied to the wagon too. And in the night, I don't know what time it was, but all of a sudden those horses reared up and yanked back and broke loose. And I jumped out of bed and I hollered at Jim, and I said, "Come on, let's get them off." And there was a kind of a cliff over there to the east. We ran over there and headed them off and caught them and brought them back. But what they got scared of was an old sheep had wandered in there, and they didn't know what a sheep was at night. And that's what scared them. But I always thought, boy, if those horses had got by us guys, we'd have walked home. And they'd have come home, those horses. And when we got home, I'll tell you, we were glad to get home because everybody was starved to death.
Were you gone about 2 days?
Oh, we've gone. I think we must have been gone 4, 5, 6 days. So quite a few days. It was a lot more days we should have. But it took a day to get over there, see, and a day to go from there to Salmon Dam, and all the time we was messing around, you know. I don't know how long it was. It was okay.
When we lived at this house, parents and I went to school at Fairview. He was in high school at Buell. Parents and I went to school at Fairview. And we went to, it was a one-room school at that time. And there were 57 pupils. And we had a man teacher called Ray Davis. And when I came, I was in the 7th grade. And because there were so many grades, he put 2 grades together. So I was put immediately into the 8th grade. So I missed the last part of my 7th grade and the first part of the 8th grade, which was a great loss. And when spring came, I had to take an examination, a county or state examination. I don't know how I passed it, but I sure did. I passed that, but I never got over missing that. And then we had quite a time at school. I know that there was a boy, must have been 18 years old, still in the 8th grade, come back to school. And he said, of course, the alchemy, I remember, I had to look on with him sometimes on books that we had because we didn't have enough. But I never knew what he did. But one day, Ray Davis, he got in a fight. He expelled him. And boy, it was an uproar. We had 57 pupils all running everywhere. Ray got in a fight with him. He was just a little guy, and this was much larger, but Ray threw him out. When he got about out to the road, he threw his books back at the school. He never came back again. But immediately I started looking to see where Clarence was, to see he was not in that fight. All right, but it was an interesting year, but I wasn't used to having so many people recite in one room. He started, you know, I had to have all the classes recite. And I had to study while the other classes were reciting. I wasn't used to that, because I'd gone to Thorells for 3 years. And in that year that we lived here, there was a Sunday school at Fairview also, a church. And there was a man in the church who came out there and preached every Sunday. I can't remember what he preached about, but he was talking about Revelation a lot. I never did have a good feeling about Revelation after that till I studied. But we had a literary society. Was literary society with the grade? Or anyway, the young people of this, there was a large bunch of, they ranged from bachelors about 40 years old to my age or younger, and I was only 13, all in one class. And we'd have big parties, great times. And my mother taught that class. And we really we'd have parties every couple weeks on Friday night, and they would be big affairs. I can't remember. I remember many instances where there were programs. I don't remember who put those on. But talk about everybody in our family was practicing that class, but Clarence was younger, and it was quite an affair.
Daddy, you mentioned going to, what was the school when you were in grade school?
Sunset View.
Sunset View. Where is that school? Or where was it?
It was straight west of here. Yeah, I'd say it was 2 miles north of Castle Ford and about 1 mile west, approximately.
And that's where Yonderly was.
No, Yonderly was down by Buell, where we lived.
That house that's 1 mile south of you?
Well,
Yeah.
it's 2
Oh, I
miles.
know, 2 miles.
It's 2 miles out of Buell.
Right.
There was we're backtracking quite a little. When we first came to Idaho, we were south of Buell, like I said, about a mile south. And we had to, us kids had to herd cows because we didn't have hay. And there was a couple of fields about, they were about 3/4 of a mile from the house there where we lived that had alfalfa on. Somebody had improved up on the place and planted alfalfa, but hadn't gone ahead with the farm, the rest of the farm, and it was just laying there idle. So we herded cows on these. Us kids did. And on one place we put up a canvas cover on 4 sticks, and so that we could sit under there when it was hot and watch the cows, keep them on that alfalfa. And one time I had to go to the house, which took quite a little while to go up there. It was 3/4 of a mile. And when I came back, the girls had forgotten all about the cows. The cows had gone about a half a mile north, then half a mile west. They followed the fence along there, and I went back, told my dad about it. So we went over there and got those cows and brought them back, which was quite a job, because it made it quite a ways. It was about a mile and a half.
How about the building, that house?
Yeah. Then after we moved to Yonder Lee, or before we moved there, they built a house. It was quite a tall house. It was 2 stories besides an attic, which made it very high. And the carpenters built the house. They put the studdings and everything together on the ground, laying down. Then later, anyway, my dad says, after they got all that done, my dad told me to go down to the neighbors, and several neighbors, and ask them to come up, that we was going to have a house raising. And I didn't know what a house raising was. I didn't ask him what it was or anything. I just, well, go ahead. I went down there. I told them we was having a house raising. I wanted them to come and help us. And they seemed to know exactly what I was talking about. Anyway, they came up. They put the sides up, and nailed them together. And I can remember working on the roof, helping to put the sheeting on, shingles. But otherwise, that was the way we built that house. Later, we moved into it.
Was it a nice house? How many bedrooms? Did you have your own bedrooms?
Yeah, it had, let's see, 1, 2, 3,
4 bedrooms.
4 bedrooms upstairs. Yeah, they were all upstairs. And it had a large attic. Plenty of room for another couple bedrooms up there. And a stairway run up through the middle of it. And the wind in those days was so strong sometimes that it was almost, we was afraid the house was going to blow over. One time, I remember my dad putting some props against it, just in case. But anyway, I remember one time coming home from school, and I don't believe I was ever in a worse dust storm in my life. I was walking with my head about 18 inches ahead of my feet, leaning towards the wind to keep going. Boy, that was the darndest dust storm. Really, the reason it was dusty was because there was so much farming, and the soil was so light in that time that it blew real bad.
And lots of dust storms.
Oh, it was terrible.
Then you lived in Yonder Lee I'm going over some of the things we've already said. But
Uh-huh.
you lived there for a while, then you moved out to Castle Ford.
Must have been somebody who was because Rachel and Florence and Rachel were both.
Yeah, we lived there quite a few years before we moved to this place out at Castle Ford that belonged to my Uncle Philip. But
Did your father have any other brothers and sisters? Your foster father?
yes, this was Philip. Uncle Philip was his brother.
What, did he have any others?
You know, I don't know of any.
I think
Yeah,
there
it's-
was some
I don't.
relative of your father that was in Seattle. Florence got a claim with him. She went to Seattle.
Well, that was mother's sister, Aunt Anna. No,
Your mother didn't have any sisters.
that was my dad's sister, I
Was
guess.
your dad- was
Yeah.
your dad's relative?
Yeah,
Was Grandma Nelson an only child?
She was the only daughter. She had two older brothers.
yeah. She had two older brothers.
Did you ever stay in contact with him?
Did ever what?
Stay in contact with him?
Yeah, she did. She wrote to him, and then let's see, Aunt Lillian had a daughter, Dolly.
Remember Dolly?
She lived in Ogden,
Yeah, Utah.
Utah. Yeah.
I asked them good contact. They came to visit here. Dolly did.
Dolly, and what was her husband's name?
Bill.
Yes, Bill.
Bill Fenwick.
And that she
That was on our 50th anniversary.
Yeah, no. That's the last time she came here. One time she came to stay. They used to come quite often and stayed for several days.
On Pheasants.
Hunt pheasants. She'd can them and take them home. She can't as much as 50 pheasants. Take them home. But one time she was up here and she had already lost her living Valley Ruth. It left her kind of upset. And she picked on you the whole time she was here. She couldn't, no matter what you did, she complained about it and picked on you. And I never asked her back because I couldn't see that again.
I probably was.
Oh, next time Beverly was.
She was a little bit spoiled about that.
I was going to say that, but I didn't. What do you remember at school out here? What other things do you remember? Did you guys have games that you play at noon or recess?
We had, I remember every spring, there always was a Fairview school. They would always have some a competition in running and jumping off of the color.
track meets.
Track meets, yeah, we always had track meets. And I can remember, I was never good at running and doing that. That was very good. The only thing I could win at was jumping rope, and I could out-jump everybody else, and not let them jump longer than everybody else. And we had these sack races and 3-legged races. And I won at the sack race too. I don't know how I did, but I did.
You said you practiced with Clarence.
Yeah, Clarence and I practiced at home. And so we got pretty good at that.
Did you play baseball?
I didn't at that time. I played baseball later when I taught. But with the kids, I played baseball with the kids some then. But I didn't play much baseball. I played with the mothers when the mothers played the daughters. When we had last day of school, all the parents came. The mothers would play against the daughters and the fathers against the sons. And I played baseball then. But I never was. The girls was playing the baseball games then. In school.
You didn't play baseball with the boys.
No, I was not the type. I was never mashing.
Did other girls?
No, not that.
What subjects did you study in school?
Up there. I said everything they had in 8th grade. I can't remember what it was. I
You don't
never.
remember any of your classes?
Oh, I remember the reading and history.
Writing and arithmetic.
Reading and history and spelling.
Penmanship. They had a lot of
I didn't know
penmanship in those days.
We had, Ray had time to put on penmanship classes, but I remember arithmetic in 7th grade. So I only got a part of term of geometry, and I didn't get the rest of the year.
Did they have graduation ceremony?
When the tape run out on the other side, Lois was talking about uh, telling about eighth grade examinations and eighth grade graduations. We had, I had questions sent from the county superintendent bringing these questions down, and they were called state exams. And the teacher we had would train us on all the questions that she thought they might answer or ask, so that we would be able to answer them correctly. Anything that they might ask in these state exams. We sure dreaded them and thought it was going to be terrible, but as a rule, it wasn't too bad. Anyway, we didn't have any eighth grade graduation exercises there is due today. It was just, you either passed or you didn't. And that was it. As we make this tape, I find that, well, it's going to be a little unorganized due to the fact that I keep thinking of, both of us keep thinking of things that we should have put in back before, or that happened but was of interest to people. I might tell about the time that a bunch of us boys decided to take a trip to Shoshone Basin. And there was Terrence Graff, Russell McCauley, Billy McCauley, and William Pete, and myself. We all decided to go over there and have a fishing trip out of it or whatever. So we organized it, and we were supposed to, in those days you traveled only by horses, wagon. And to get there, we'd have to go with horses and wagon, and so I said, well, I'd take one horse. Russell McCauley said he'd take one horse. Put them together and we drive them up there on the wagon. And the night before we were to go, Russell or somebody tied this horse up to the wagon there with a little too long a rope, and he got twisted up in it, choked himself to death. So we was without a horse. So I said, well, I can take both horses this time. And my horses were used to going on the school wagon. So I took them over and we hipped onto it. We all got in and took on. Lois says she was there observing when we left. Of course, that was before we started going together, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, we took off. Lots of fun. Everybody had a rifle, 22 rifle. Everything we saw along the road, jackrabbits or anything, we shot at. I don't know how we kept from killing each other. But anyway, we got all over there by between Berger and Hollister. Badger running across the road. Boy, we all got excited. We're going to get that badger. I was driving the team and also wanted to do some shooting. And I couldn't get anybody to take the lines. So I just threw them over. William Pete was in the seat with me up front. And I just threw the lines over in his lap and jumped off the thing and went to shooting at that badger. I don't remember who killed the badger, but anyway, we killed it. We took it, skinned it. Was going to show people what big hunters we were. We killed a badger. So we skinned it and put the skin on the back of the wagon across the end gate so it would dry. And we proceeded on. They got over there a ways. Wasn't real sure how to get to Shoshone Basin, so first guy we saw, we asked, how do you get there? He said, you see that opening in the hills over there, kind of the valley cut in the hills? Yeah, we could see that. He says, you go through that. That'll get you there. Well, we took roads, every road that was pointing that way. And we did, we got there. And we went up the basin a ways, up above the tall pines that are in there where you first hit it at the lower end. And we decided to make camp. So I don't remember what we had to eat or anything, but anyway, I do remember that about time to go to bed, why, a lot of them got ready to go to bed and got in bed, and I was not ready yet to go to bed. I wanted to have a little fun. I said, sleep at home. Anyway, I started climbing trees, doing things like that. I got pretty well up at the top there. I see these pine cones up there, and I decided that would be good to throw down there, pester them guys that's trying to go to bed. Boy, I guess I did. I sure made Billy McCauley, he was so mad at me, I way he could have killed me if he had a hold of me. Anyway, I got tired of that finally and came down and went to bed. The next day we decided there wasn't any water, enough water there to have fish in it, so we decided we'd go to the Salmon Dam. We knew there would be good fishing over there. So it took us another day to go over to, by the way, it took us a day to get to Shoshone Basin with the horses. Anyway, it took us another day to get over to Salmon Dam. And we fished and we caught quite a few fish. I can't remember whether they were trout or suckers or what, but we had quite a few fish. Anyway, it helped a lot in our food supply because we had no idea how much food to take. We didn't take enough. You know how a bunch of boys could eat. Anyway, I remember getting the darndest headache. I always get a headache when I got hungry. Anyway, we stayed there a while. I don't know, remember how long we was there, but anyway, that night we tied the horses to a wagon. Of course, they were tied there anyway, but Russell and I got in the wagon and slept in. It was just an open box wagon with hay in it, and we decided we better sleep in there and kind of watch the horses. Anyway, sometime in the middle of the night, wow, the horses reared back and broke loose, took off across the country there, and I woke up real startled and hollered at Jimmy. I says, get out of there, we gotta go. Head them off. That's all we did. We jumped out of there in our shirt tails, run up against this, there was kind of a cliff between us and, on the other side of the dam there. And we could, if we'd get for that cliff before they got by, why, we could head them off. So we did. And we caught them and brought them back and tied them up. And boy, I sat down and I said, my gosh, if they'd have got past us, they would have came cooked unclear hold. We have been
sitting there high and dry with that way. Had to walk, baby. Well, there wasn't many people up there in those days. Anyway, I don't know how long we stayed at the dam, but we left and came home from there. And I'm telling you, we was glad to get home and get something decent to eat. And we sure had run out. Oh yes, I wanted to tell you about that badger hide we had hanging on the back of the wagon. You know, after about 3 or 4 days, that thing got pretty potent. It got so bad that we had to sacrifice it and throw it away. We couldn't bring it home. We felt pretty bad about that because that was quite a trophy, we thought. Also, I didn't tell about what scared the horses. It was an old sheep, a stray sheep, that wandered into there, and they saw that sheep in the night, and they didn't know what that was, and that just scared the stuffing out of them. Away they went. So that's what scared them. When I was growing up, I sure did like to swim. Used to go to Banbury's, different places, and they had in those days they had a pond at where they're swimming whole ways there in Buell Park now. It was just an open pond, just ditch water running through it. And I also had a couple of telephone poles in there, standing side by side, about 30, 40 feet apart, with a crossbar on top. And they had swings on there that you could get in those swings and swing and dive in the water, which was a lot of fun. Also, they had steps up the one pole. You could climb clear up to the top. I used to get up on that top step, jump off, and thought I was doing quite a thing. And they did have somebody had built a platform on top of the pole. These poles were about 30, 35 feet high. And I kept looking at that platform up there and thought I ought to do something about it. Took quite a lot of nerve. I knew that if I went up there, I wouldn't climb back down. I'd have to jump off. Well, I finally climbed up there, stood up, had a board fastened out there so you could hang on to it, so you could steady yourself standing up. I looked down at that water, and I'll swear it looked like way down there. I didn't know about it. I had to think about it quite a little. But of course, there was spectators watching it. You know me, I was quite a performer in those days. I didn't want to back out. I'd look at it, act like I was going, then I'd change my mind. Finally, I said, well, here it goes. I've got to do it. I'm up here now. And I hit the water pretty hard. I don't know whether it was that time or another time. I hit the water one time, and it bloodied my nose. But my nose used to bleed about as easy as anybody's. Didn't take much to make it bleed. But I got a lot of fun out of that. And I would say, quite a little notoriety at that time, which I was after. I guess, but now you realize I was quite a show-off. But I couldn't help it, I was built that way. We used to have more fun. Troy Moore and I used to go swimming a lot together. And we'd go down to Banbury's and we'd get to diving on the diving board. We broke 2 or 3 of them for them guys down there. They didn't see us come. We'd bounce and bounce and bounce on them before we'd go off into the water. Just to be ornery, I guess. Have a good time. Anyway, Troy was a good friend. We had lots of fun together. After he went with Barbara and I with Lois, we went up to the base one time. On a picnic. Of course, I was always, if there's any trees around, I sure like to climb them. Just to be climbing. And there were some pretty tall lodgepole pines there. So, climbed up the top and started swinging back and forth. Troy climbed another one a little ways away from me, and he was just swinging back and forth too, and a couple of, I don't know what, up there. The women, the girls were down below, taking it all in. Of course, we were performing for them. And finally I said, I'll swing over and, in your tree, and you grab my tree. So we did. We changed trees in the air there. Thought we was quite the acrobats. They had a lot of fun. We were always doing something like that, just for the fun of it. I think that I had ought to back up and tell about my early childhood after I was adopted and brought to Idaho. It was, and like I have spoken before, that Gail came along too, and he wasn't here long. They finally sent him back. But from then on, I was pretty much lost, because I had been with Gail up to that time, practically all my life up until then. I missed him very much. And my mother would take me on her lap and try to comfort me. And, well, it was really a hard time to get adjusted to this different kind of a life. My dad never quite understood boys. He was really, well, I can't say that he was prejudiced or anything, but it seemed like to me that I didn't feel like I was as important as the girls to him. But my mother, I'll tell you, no boy ever had a better mother. She was kind, thoughtful, and thinking about my welfare, trying to comfort me at all times whenever I needed it. But it was pretty hard. The children's home said we could write to our brothers and sisters, which was Gail and Gladys. But we'd have to send the letter to the children's home. And if there was anything in the letter that denoted where we were, where we lived, or what our parents' names were, or anything like that, they would try to cross it out. And we did. We wrote back and forth some in the early childhood. Finally, it got so that there really wasn't anything to talk about, and so we just quit writing either way. And it wasn't until I was 21. The children's home said when he becomes 21, they'll let us know where our folks were, my folks were. So when they became 21, why, they did write and told us where Dale was, where my dad was, where my sister was, and where my real mother was. They were all living that. And they were scattered from Iowa, Canada, California. And so I had a chance to go back with some, in those days they shipped potatoes to Chicago by rail in boxcars, and it was in the wintertime. And to keep the potatoes from freezing in the boxcar, they would have little oil stoves in the end of the boxcars. And they needed somebody to go back and see if these oil stoves were lit at all time, and so the potatoes wouldn't freeze. So another guy named William Pete and I decided to go back. We had two cars. He had one car and I had the other one that we were assigned to. So we started out, we rode in the caboose, and at every place that they had to switch, why, we'd ask the yard master, when is this train going out? We'd tell him the number of the car. He'd tell us when it was going out, so we'd be sure and be there time and catch it going out. And I remember we were in Omaha, and we had gotten pretty hungry, and by golly, we had to go get something to eat. So we proceeded to go to this place. It was, I don't know how far it was, but anyway, it took us a while to go. And before we went, we asked the yard master when the train was going to leave. He told us. He evidently made a mistake, or he didn't care. But anyway, he told us an hour later than one of us actually just go. And we'd got there some bread, butter, I don't know what all we bought to eat. Anyway, we was coming back and we saw our train leaving. And it was on the other side of a train that was switching and going the other direction. What did we do but jump onto that one that was going the other direction, crawl in between it, and jump off the other side, and run for ours. We just barely got there in time to catch the caboose. And I was bigger than William Pete. And I says, you take the front end and I'll take the back end. I thought maybe he'd have a better chance to catch it quicker. He grabbed it. Of course, really the back end is where he should grab a caboose, because the rod's kind of slant so you can jump right onto the stem. Anyway, he he drugged for quite a little ways before he finally got on. Boy, did that conductor give us the devil. He sure did. They didn't like having us kids on there anyway, I don't think. And by the way, we never did have to do anything about those oil stoves. Seemed like the conductor checked them out. We got back to Chicago and we went to hotel and we thought, well, as long as we're back in Chicago, we'll go see the Zickfield Follies. And we did. We went to see the Zickfield Follies. I don't know, it wasn't that great, I didn't think. But it was the Zickfield Follies, which was very popular in those days. Anyway, I'd say a lot of anyways, but anyway. I think we split in Chicago, and William and Pete went someplace else, and I went on to Detroit. I was going to Detroit to get a job working in the automobiles shops. And I went there and applied to one place. Said, what can you do? I says, I'm a painter. Well, I don't know. I can't remember that they ever hired me, but anyway, I didn't work any. I went through the factory and watched them put Model Ts together, though, on the assembly line, which was really interesting. And I think at that time, I went over, I wanted to be in Canada, just to say I'd been in Canada. So went across the river there on the ferry and turned right around and came back. And I decided I didn't care much about Chicago. Came back to Chicago. I didn't care much about that. And so I decided to come. What I was going back there for, too, I was going to buy a car and drive it back. See, we didn't have a car yet, and I thought, well, that'd be a place to buy a car. I'll drive it back. And I decided that was no good. So, went back, I guess I got on the train and came back to, let's see, Cedar Rapids, I think it was. And I left there and went down to Fort Madison, where my brother lived and my dad. And I got there, and Dale, he worked for, I forget now what it was, a paper mill or something, where anyway, he was working all the time. He took me one day over to where my dad was working, a steel mill. My dad was standing there punching holes with an electric drill press in iron. That was his job. He did that all day long. And so Gale showed me where he was and says, I will go with you. You just see whether he knows you. And I went over there and I said, hello there. He shook his hand out, stuck his hand out and said, hello, son. I said, it's good heck. How'd you know me? Oh, he says, you got a low shoulder from the left side there. I could tell that was you from that. But I knew that he knew I was coming, was in the vicinity, and was coming sooner or later. And that's how he happened to know for sure that was me. While I was with visiting with Gail, why I didn't have anything to do. And I don't know whether Gail had some skates or I know I didn't have mine along, but anyway, I got some skates. Mississippi River was about 1.5 miles wide there. And it had turned real cold and it froze in a couple of nights pretty good. I decided to go skating. And it was real nice. So I looked over the other side. I saw this other town over there. And I thought, well, why not skate over there and back? So I started out and I got out there a ways. I see this opening in the water and the ice is about 18 inches wide and about, just a slit in the ice where it hadn't frozen together yet. On the Mississippi. I skated back, and of course I came to these air holes in the ice, and I jumped over them and made it back safely. But I want to say right here that that was the most dumb thing that I ever did in my whole life. And I really have done a lot of dumb things. I could have gone through the ice and nobody would have known where I was. But it's like Lois has said a lot of times. You surely had a guardian angel over you. And I know I did. While I was still there in Fort Madison, my father wanted me to have my picture taken. And so I went downtown and had it taken where he told me to. And shopping around or looking around in the stores, I see this real pretty tea set in the window. And I went in and looked at it. Said, "Can you ship that to Idaho for me?" He said, "I sure can." And I said, "Well, can you guarantee it to get safe there and not break?" And he says, "You bet. We'll pack it good." So he did, and he sent it to Idaho. I'll let Lois tell you about the tea set.
Earl never ceases to astonish me. And he did in those days, too, when I got this great big package in the mail. And our mail carrier, Brian Rogers, he kidded me when he handed it to me. He called me out to the mailbox. He kidded me, "What you got?" And boy, I sure didn't know what it was. I couldn't imagine in that shape of box what he could have sent me. So I took and opened it up, and I was really astonished. It was beautiful. It was the last thing on earth I ever expected him to give me, but that made it more fun. And we all had a lot of fun with it. I had no punch to show it off, so I had to keep it in a box, I guess, until we were married. But it was beautiful, and everybody had a fit about it. Stop it. Earl's sister Maria and I were real good friends. So we had a way of going to each other's houses and inviting some other people. And on Sundays, we'd have quite a group, and we'd sing and play games and just do what young people do, kid around. So that's what we did. One Sunday they were at our house, another Sunday we were at Earl's. And so one day, Earl's sister and Richard's mother. I think Florence and Rachel, and his mother kept saying, I think Earl's going to ask you to go to church tonight.
Up too low.
So I was kind of prepared when Earl drove his buggy up, and he said, would you go to, and he had it all opened up. He sat out there, and so I was ready because I knew he was going to ask me if I wanted a warning. So I said yes, and so I got in the buggy with him, and we went to church. And
That was our first date.
that really was. That really was. In the meantime, we had choir practice every Wednesday night. And there was quite a bunch of us. I think there was as high as 25 or 30. And we'd meet at the church or Mrs. Hyde's house, and she'd have choir practice. And then after we had a party. We always did. And sometimes the choir practice was part party, but we had a lot of fun. And all of us came to choir practice, I guess, because of it. And then besides that, in our BYPU, it was called, Baptist Young People
Union.
Union. And would have parties at different people's houses or at the church. And I remember having a party out to our place one night, and everybody was having a great time. And we sang songs to play our games those days. And one night we were playing
Willis Thorells will be in there.
what? What?
Tell about him.
And that's where you get.
He was the originator of a lot of those games.
Well, we were playing those games before he came.
Okay.
That he thought of some more. Well, I guess we were. But anyway, we were playing Skip Leap Maloo one night. And that's when we all got in a circle and we would swing around with our partners. Then we played Virginia Reel. That was also, we'd sing them. Did the songs to them. And as Earl said, around that time, Willis Thorells and his sister, what was her name? Thelma, came to our BY, and they were a lot of fun. They knew more games. They came from the South, and I guess they did a lot of playing games like that among the young people. And he told a lot of us, so we had a lot of games. He called us Miller Boy. And I can't remember the others. Yeah, it was all lots of fun. I can't think.